Always has to be a shot at somebody.
No.
They're never clean.
They have to run. That's the only shot they have.
They do it for 82 games. We're about to find out.
He already has shown what he's capable of.
Did surprise me. I thought we were going to hang in there.
This makes me think that we do need to be humble.
I actually think you're the only one who deserved that beat.
Hey, Bobby Manning here, and welcome to a weekend edition of the Garden Report. Chris Mannix is here from Sports Illustrated, back for another appearance. Welcome in, Chris. And it's an interesting season, man. I don't know what to make of it so far. It's been a complete mixed bag for this team, and I guess that's what it could potentially be all season.
Yeah, I think the ups and downs are just going to be part of this team all year. I do think they're going to get better in some areas as some of these new guys get comfortable in the system. Some of these guys that haven't played yet get better in this system, or haven't played much in previous years anyway. But they're going to have some uneven nights. They're going to have some nights where they are positively dreadful from beyond the 3-point line. I mean, it's just, you just kind of stuck with the roller coaster ride, given the personnel that they have.
Yeah, and you were around the last couple of games here. Utah, obviously a brutal loss to that team that they probably, even with the losses and Tatum being out, she had no business losing to, but losing a putback, the rebounding issue comes back to haunt them there. And then the Wizards, who they blow out of the building there. And those were two interesting games because they had a relatively tough schedule off the bat and mixed results there. The Pelicans, they got on the board there against a bad team, beat the Cavs, who weren't quite themselves, and Mitchell was, questionable to even play in that one, and got a decent win down in Philadelphia against what had been an undefeated Sixers team to that point. So you saw them, playing up to the competition, but when they got to a team that you're like, all right, they should almost certainly beat this team in Utah, create some separation. Are they capable of doing that there? They weren't. And then early in that Wizards game too, they go down by double digits and you're like, oh, is this what it's going to be here? But the Wizards finally with that team that they were able to create some separation from. So I guess what we've learned so far is that they're a little bit better than the Wizards for sure. Like we don't know what this team is yet, is my point.
Yeah, I actually didn't think the Jazz loss was as shocking as most people. I mean, the Jazz have not played bad this year. Like, the two of their losses were by a total of 3 points. They've got some good wins. They had a couple of wins before they played Boston, and they've got Utah does have a level of connectivity that the Celtics are lacking right now. I mean, a lot of those guys there are young, but a few of them have been together for several years now. I mean, Markkanen's been there since 22. Keontae George's got a few years now under his belt. Like, they've been growing together. They're not good by any stretch, but if they had lost to the Wizards, I probably would have been a little more apoplectic. But you've kind of seen the flaws exposed in some of these losses. Like, they lost 3 or 4 of their top 3-point shooters, but they're continuing to shoot at the highest pace in the NBA. They don't have size up front anymore with the guys they've lost, Porzingis, Horford, Cornette, and that's caused them to be an anemic rebounding team this season. So it's tough. I was saying this to somebody within the organization the other day. You look at say something Miami's doing. Miami, they've reinvented themselves this year. They just threw out the playbook and said, we're going with something completely different. We no longer have Jimmy Butler. So we are going to adopt this Noah LaRoche free-flowing, no plays type of offense, and that's going to be our identity, both this season and maybe moving forward. The Celtics can't really do that because at some point they're going to get Jayson Tatum back, and whether it's this year, next year, wherever. And they really can't reinvent who they are because once Tatum comes back and once they start to fill in around the roster with more veteran players, which they'll do, whether it's via trade or free agency this summer, they're going to go back to playing the way that they're playing now. They're going to be more effective because they're going to be able to rebound a little bit better. They're going to be able to shoot the three a lot better. So they're in kind of a tough spot where I think if Tatum was gone forever, maybe Joe Mazzulla reinvents the way this team plays a little bit. but he's not. He's going to be back, and you've kind of got to play the same kind of system that you've played for the last 2 or 3 years, just with personnel that is measurably worse than it's been in recent years.
So you think that's the reason we haven't seen a drastic change in their play style, is that they're anticipating continuing that approach with Tatum when he gets back? Because they're last in pace again.
It's a little surprising because they were, talking a lot about pace this year. But I always said to somebody as well, like, anytime you hear a team talk about we're going to play faster, it means they stink. Like every bad team I've ever covered has said in the preseason we're going to play faster, because faster gives you more opportunities to get easy shots. I would definitely like to see the Celtics be better than last in pace. Like that's like Utah was last in pace last year. Like that's they don't want to play that type of offense. You got to try to get up and down, try to get some easy buckets. You can't just, like the first quarter of the Wizards game, like that could have, they managed to figure it out in the final 3, but that was like exactly what you kind of don't want in what this team. That was Jaylen Brown scoring like 16 points in the first quarter. And if it wasn't for like a Josh Minott flurry, it would have been like nobody else putting up points. And you need to distribute the offense a lot better to be successful. But they're in a tough spot. Like this is, if Tatum was playing, they would be a lot better. Like they would, the threes would be a lot better. The offense would flow a lot better. And like in anticipation of at some point returning, you don't want to completely reinvent the offense and, have to do it all again maybe next summer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's the hole they're missing in that starting lineup, is at that 4 spot, the rebounding that Tatum provided. And they tried Hauser for the first 3 games there, and it was a disaster on the boards. They were last in defensive rebounding by like 4 percentage points. And then Minott miraculously saved that starting lineup, and the numbers have been great with him in there.
He's been good.
He's been a bit of a revelation for them. A good find among a bunch of offseason
And
additions.
that Bobby, so, that's the kind of guy. Like, look, Celtics fans don't want to hear it, but you're not going to do anything this year. Like, I don't think this team is in the Eastern Conference is bad enough to fall out of the playoff mix. I just don't think so. I think their wings are too good and they're too mentally tough. Like their wins, they'll tough out some games to that maybe they shouldn't win. But to me, it's like identifying maybe Josh Minott can be part of your rotation next year. Like that's a big win for this team. Like if it turns out like this is a guy that for 4 years, couldn't do anything, wasn't like in a rotation on any of the teams that he played for. You give him 20 plus minutes with this team, and all of a sudden he's giving you 6.5 rebounds a game. Like that's like, hey, all right. If he can be a semi-reliable 3-point shooter and a better rebounding wing than some of his peers across the league, that's a huge win for Boston. Like when I watch that guy start to make plays defensively and rebound the basketball, like I know there are people in the Celtics front office that are like, all right, that's good. Like we'll take something like that as a positive result from this season.
Yeah, and he's 22. It's almost like a second draft guy. Didn't work out in Minnesota, didn't get to play a ton in Minnesota, and that happens sometimes. And you get the opportunity elsewhere, and that's where you actually start to flourish based off the development he did there. He's 32% from 3. Probably going to have to shoot a little bit better than that for it to work at the 4. They tried him at the 5 a little bit last game, which is small. Like that's going to be a challenge for them if they go with that often. And you just see it when they play. Like they're trying to account for holes in almost every lineup that they have out there. And it has been shocking. They hit rock bottom in that Utah game from 3, reached, I think when they got to 19% in that game, they fell to last place in the league in 3-point percentage. And they settled in around 29th by the end of the night there. Bounced back a little bit with a 39% performance against the Wizards there. But that has shocked me more than anything else here, is that they have struggled offensively. And you understand that with some of the personnel that they lost here, but there's still a lot of shooting. You thought Derek White might make a leap this year, and it looked like it for a quarter on opening night where he went crazy in transition and shooting threes and had this awesome performance, and then completely tailed off shooting the ball. He struggled immensely. Pritchard was in a massive slump to begin this season. And in that Utah game in particular, I think they were plus 21 with Jaylen on the floor, and they end up losing the game. So that's how reliant they've been on Jaylen Brown offensively to begin this year. And he's been outstanding. I think he had 35 in the Washington game. He's top 5 in total scoring this season so far. So one of the questions we had coming in this year is, can Jaylen lead this thing? And it's been a resounding yes in that department so far. What's around him still is a complete question mark here.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that Jaylen is busting out. Like that is exactly what I expected. And I think even though Jaylen wants to win, and that's a top priority for him. You saw him. He proved during that championship season he's a winning player with the MVPs that he won in the playoffs. I do think he is relishing the opportunity to spread his wings a little bit and show that he's an all NBA caliber talent. I thought going into the season he would take Jayson Tatum's place on one of the all NBA teams and do that. He's on track for that right now. But I do think what you are seeing is that as good as guys like White and Pritchard and Hauser are, and I think they're very good players, like they're championship level players. When you ask them to jump up a level, to go from being the number 3 guy to the 2 guy, the 4 guy to the 3 guy, the 5 guy to the 4 guy, it's difficult because you're getting better defenders on you. You're going higher up on the scouting report. Like I think Jaylen's done a remarkable job of, absorbing, number 1 wing defenders and the entire, team defensive philosophies being steered toward him and still being able to have success, still being able to break those defense. I think some of the other guys, particularly White, who's not shooting well so far, is having a little more trouble, dealing with those, being
and
more of a
everybody's
focus.
full court pressing around the league right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think they're having some trouble with that, with the defensive intensity being ratcheted up a little bit more. And I heard that a lot from, Derek White's got a lot of fans around the league, but he's got a lot of fans from people that love him as a 3rd or 4th option, but not so much at 2 or 3. So he's, the second he got to Boston, he was cast perfectly in that role. And I think he's still trying to figure out, how to get his points and how to make his shots with better defenders on it.
Yeah, so you said this is a playoff team. It's hard to imagine them, barring injuries, falling out of that mix in the East here. And it's been a mixed bag for a lot of the teams so far. Indiana obviously decimated at 1-7 to begin this year. The tanking teams, by and large, have been that to this point. The Magic, a little disappointing to begin the season, who are up next over this weekend in a mini series against Boston. And obviously the most surprising team in the East so far is the 6-1 Bulls. So not surprising, right? We're 9 games in. We don't have a clear view of what the East looks like. The Sixers look a little bit better than I expected. The Bucks look solid. The Heat, Magic, a couple other teams, Hawks, who have had injuries, look like they're going to be on the disappointing side, at least from what we've seen so far. But I still don't have a great feel for where Boston's going to finish here. Where did you have them going into this year? And has the start of the year altered that at all based off what they've done or what anyone else has done around the East?
I had them getting into the playoffs via the play-in coming into the season. I still look at them in that range. I think based on the things you said, these teams out there have been very disappointing. Could they get to 6? Probably. I mean, I haven't quite figured out what's sustainable. Miami started the season off great. They go out west, they get clobbered. Now they're back to kind of looking more vulnerable. Orlando's been, I think, the biggest disappointment of anybody. Like I
thought they could make the finals this year.
I did too. Like I had them to go to the conference finals. I picked them to go to the conference finals. But they seem to be suffering from an identity crisis where, they're trying to play too fast, I think. Like they won a lot of their games last year. They won half their games last year with all the injuries, grinding out offense and just beating the crap out of you defensively. I thought that Desmond Bane, they'd go from like 27th in offensive efficiency to like 19th, and that would be enough for them to still win games in like 1990s style, 95, 92 types of wins. But they're playing too fast for my taste. I think they're lacking.
I don't get it.
They're lacking a true point guard down there too. Jalen Suggs a good player, but I think they're lacking, a real point guard on that team. The Bulls, I don't know if that's sustainable. Like they're playing like 10 deep, and their bench has been phenomenal this year. But is that going to hold up over the course of the season? Philly, like is Embiid, are his minutes going to go up as the season progresses? That's going to make them better defensively, because right now they've been horrible on that end of the floor. There's no certainty. Like even Cleveland, I thought they'd cruise to like a great start, like an Oklahoma City type start to the season. Yeah, they've had some injuries, but and Darius Garland coming back now, maybe that changes things. But they've been uneven. There's just so much turbulence right now in the Eastern Conference. And even Milwaukee, like you're going to sit there and tell me like I believe that Giannis is going to do this all season long. I believe that Miles Turner's going to be fine. But you're telling me like Ryan Rollins, who I couldn't pick out of a photo array coming into this season, like is going to be like he's going to be playing like the most improved player at all-star level all season long. Kyle Kuzma's going to be the sixth man of the year. Like there's just so much that I didn't see coming into this year. And I'm curious to see as we get into November, December, after Christmas, like how does this all level off? Like what do teams look like when they start to settle in?
Yeah, and that's one thing the Celtics do have going for them. Tatum aside, obviously, is they're healthy. Jaylen tweaked the hamstring in the final preseason game there, but he's played every game since and has looked outstanding, as we've talked about. But in Philly, you do have that Embiid question. Trae Young's already down in Atlanta. Bam got banged up. I don't think it's serious, but he went down in the last Miami game and might miss some time here. Cavs started the year without Garland. He's going to be back soon, but they're missing Strus. All the way down the line, the Knicks are dealing with this weird Josh Hart thing, and Mitchell Robinson missed the start of the year, and Indiana is missing pretty much the whole roster right now. So regardless of what the Celtics do and who they are, their outcome could be swung by how healthy other teams are in the East. And if we were going to rank how healthy everybody is in the East right now, they're probably in the top 3, 4, 5 at this point, just based off some of the attrition that we've seen already. And then obviously you got your tanking teams like Brooklyn and Washington, who Boston just saw here. They got a lot of easy games coming up here. And that was why I was interested to see, like, are they going to blow by those kind of teams this year? Because you have to take every one of those games that you can get if you're going to exceed expectations this year. And we're about to see that. Is another tough stretch this weekend with Orlando and Philadelphia coming up on Tuesday. I think Wednesday's Memphis. But after that, it's a lot of Brooklyn and those kind of teams after a tough start here for Boston. So 4-5, I mean, they had a chance to win it on opening night at the buzzer. They blew the Utah game, obviously. So there's a couple spots here that they probably should have won and didn't. Even the Detroit game, I mean, they were in a great position late in that one and gave up 4 straight offensive rebounds against a team that's now 6-2. So they're competitive. It's going to be tough for them every single night this year. They can't have injuries, but it looks like they could rise above that play-in line in a certain scenario here. Now, here's the question every fan's asking. Should they? Or is this a year where you want to be outside of the playoffs? You want to be in prime draft position, and that's the better long-term play for this team?
Yeah. I mean, look, you good luck getting Joe Mazzulla to tank. Like, that's never going to happen. Like, and good luck getting these guys with so much pride to not scrap out as many wins as they can. Look, if you're asking, like, what is in the best long-term interest of the Celtics, it's to get a lottery pick. Like, it's that simple. Like, because the lottery pick is either a young player on a cheap contract, which we know they need, or a trade asset that you can package with some salary to get back, the next Derek White or the next guy that makes sense with that rotation. I just think they're going to have a hard time, unless there's an injury to Jaylen, unless like there's a hamstring strain that costs him a chunk of games. To your point, they're going to be really competitive. I think, they believe that their defense is going to get better. As guys get comfortable playing with each other, they're going to get better. Are they going to be an elite 3-point shooting team? No, but they believe they're better than a bottom 5 3-point shooting team. So if they improve in those areas, they're going to be 500 or better this season. And in the Eastern Conference, that might be like the 5 seed, given what we've seen, from some of the teams that are out there. So while I think like Brad Stevens is probably sitting there saying, if I could just close my eyes and get through this season, you give me a lottery pick, that would be great for how I'm trying to build this team out. I don't think they're going to get there. What I am interested in seeing is like I think this team's in a interesting position before the trade deadline, because like I would like to see this team be aggressive. Like, I would like them to see them be buyers.
Which way?
Buyers.
Okay.
Buyers. Like, I know there's the Anthony Simons, can get out his contract, get into the tax, all the reasons you want to do. There's all sorts of mechanics there. I get all that. But like, if you can find someone that makes sense for the team in 26, 27, I'm not even talking about this season. I want somebody under contract for the next 3 years that can replace Porzingis, replace Horford, somebody, especially in the front court, which we know they need that help. There's somebody out there. Like, I mean, a guy like Markkanen, man, I would take him in a hot minute. That is Porzingis but younger and probably better. Like, honestly, like that guy can play. Let me tell you, like, that guy just badly needs to be when he's in winning situations, he is so much better. Like this team, this Jazz team, like they're competitive now, and that sparked him like to play the way he's averaging 30 and 6 right now on the season. Could you imagine Markkanen, who's under contract for like the next 4 years? Like this is the first year of that long-term extension. Can you imagine Markkanen playing alongside Tatum and Brown for the next 3 years? Like
Massive
that's your
front
next
court.
guy. Like that's the guy. Like, so if I'm the Celtics, I know it's pricey. I know the mechanics are hard. Markkanen makes like $46 million. You got to do some tricky things to make it work. But like, if you watch, he didn't have a great game against the Celtics, but he was fine. But like, watch him this season. Watch how he would think about how he would fit opposite Tatum and Brown. That's the guy I absolutely positively love for the Celtics, and that's a guy that will probably be available at some point. Like he doesn't really fit in what the Jazz are trying to do long term. And you got Austin Ainge there, Danny Ainge there. Let's play. Let's make a deal. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. You get some freedom from flexibility and some flexibility. You get some draft capital, and we get a player that can help us win a championship for the next 3 or 4 years.
I love it. I love the ideas, trying to get back to contention because it's going to be a tricky road to do that coming out of this year, regardless of what happens this season. Before we talk a little bit more about that, I want to give a quick shout out here to Prizepicks. Check them out every football weekend, and it is Thursday as we record this, so the football weekend's getting started here. And you know how it goes with fantasy. By this time of year, a lot of your teams are off the rails. Injuries are just... You made some bad decisions throughout the year. So build a new team every weekend over on Prizepicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prizepicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prizepicks, where it's good to be right. You got basketball going on right now as well, hockey, as well as football, of course. And all you have to do to build your team, and you can mix and match players, 2 to 6 player stat projections, pick more or less on them. And if you get your picks right, you can cash in Drake May, Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley, rushing touchdowns, passing yards, passing touchdowns, all of that. See what they're projected to put out there and just pick more or less on those. They got injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, Prizepicks won't count it as a loss. And they invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect, and you can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. It's the best way to win cash this football season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your takes into cash all season long on Prizepicks. Download the app and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, it's good to be right. So how does this team get back to contention here? And it does start this year. The deadline's going to be interesting because they're a team that's over the tax. I don't know if there's an imperative for them to get below, because I think that's going to lead to some awkward moves just to try to get off some money here. You might have to send out some picks to do that kind of stuff. The Simons contract is going to be interesting here because it's a big one. And they obviously looked at that over the summer and just couldn't do anything there. So what is this next couple months stretch here leading up to that deadline going to look like them from a, trade transaction perspective here as they try to position themselves for the future?
Well, Simons is still the most interesting guy to watch, because you're right. They did explore trying to do like a Porzingis Niang type of deal where you're sending out more salary than you're getting back. But from what I was told, everything that they were hearing was like, you got to attach draft capital to Simons to get teams interested. They're not just looking to absorb. And Simon's a good player, but like in a contract year, probably looking for real money next time around. Like there really wasn't any kind of interest. Now, could that change as we get closer to the trade deadline? Could a team look at Simons's offensive, abilities and say we could use a guy like that as our, 7th or 8th man off the bench? Maybe. I think he'll be somebody teams are looking at. But for the Celtics, I think they just have to decide, like, what direction do you want to go? How aggressive do you want to be? I mean, I prefer them to be a buyer, but I think they just as easily could turn into a seller and just try to offload even more stuff. Not the core guys. Like they've shown that Hauser, Pritchard, White, those guys they want around. They could have moved Sam Hauser anytime this past offseason. That's a great contract he's under. Half the teams in the league would have loved to have had Sam Hauser. They obviously want him around for the next couple of years? Like, do they look to really get under that tax number, or do they start thinking about, what can we get? What can help us get better when Jayson Tatum gets back in the lineup?
So you think White's solidly part of the mix into the
I do.
future here?
I do. I don't.
Okay,
I think he's there. I think he's there. Yeah.
because he's going to be in there. So there was a lot of talk over the summer, right? Do you move Brown? That's tough. He makes $50 million. He's part of your, core here. He won the championship, the MVP. I couldn't have seen that ever happening. And, if you're taking him in, like, you're building everything around him as whatever team that would be. And I think, you didn't see or know whether he could lead a team prior to this year and when we're going to see it. White fits anywhere. And obviously they got some offers over the summer, I'm sure, that were enticing, and anyone would want that guy. I think I'd heard over the summer that Toronto floated like RJ Barrett and draft picks, and they were an aggressive team trying to go for him. And Golden State, I'm sure he'd be a great fit there. And what I'm thinking now after the Fred VanVleet injury is Houston and Ime. Like, that is exactly what they're missing right now.
They wouldn't do it though. They wouldn't. Houston, Houston. I mean, would they like him? Sure, but Houston feels like they have a couple things. One, they believe that Amen Thompson can be a point guard. Like, they think he's
and it's working. They're number one in offense.
I said as soon as Fred VanVleet down, one of the first things I wrote about was like, Amen's fine. Like, he's gonna be fine.
And
he's gonna be a
Şengün.
great player. Yeah, and I'm saying more of the point guard spot, but it's like,
right.
They've got in Houston, they've got enough picks. They've got the Phoenix Capital and some other ones to make one more really big swing. Like, they can do something big. Like, if Giannis becomes,
so they're thinking bigger than White.
They're thinking way bigger than White. Like, they're not going to blow the rest of their draft capital on a Derek White. They're just not going to do it. They're going to wait and see who becomes available either before the trade deadline or this summer, specifically with Giannis, because Giannis is going to be able to control where he wants to go, and they're going to see if they're in play for something like that.
So there's that. I think that makes sense because White and Tatum are so good playing off each other too. I just wonder, what do you have as trade assets? If you're this team and you're keeping Brown, you're keeping Tatum, you're keeping White. That's going to be the question here, because beyond that, it's not a lot left in terms of money, like matching salary or assets. It's a lot of minimum guys. It's Hauser. It's your draft pick this year. How good's that going to be? That's where, the question pops into my mind. Like, Tatum's going to be back next year, but how do you make this roster better around the core four of Tatum, Brown, White, and, Hauser, whoever that fourth guy up is there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it needs a ton to get them back to the top of the Eastern Conference. Like, if beating Oklahoma City in the finals or Denver in the finals for the next 5 years is going to be a real challenge. Like, you watch how the Thunder are playing this year without Jalen Williams and part-time Chet Holmgren. And as we record this, they've got one loss. It's unbelievable how deep that team is. They're going to be the front runner for years to come. But in the East, like, the Tatum Brown combo with Pritchard, who's still in his prime, White, who's still got good years left, to me, you just really need to nibble around the fringes there. Like, you need to find the next Al Horford. You need to find, another 3-and-D type of wing. And you can find those guys. Like, you like, especially in the front court, you're going to be able to get guys on discount salaries that want big roles on winning teams. Like, that's why Horford went to Golden State, not for the money, for the chance to play a significant role on a potential winning team. Like, when Tatum's back, you're going to have those guys sniffing around the Celtics, wondering if it makes sense for them to ring chase over the years. So I'm just looking at that front court, whether it's, maybe there's somebody in the draft that they can use that pick on that's NBA ready right in year one. Maybe they can use that pick, package it with a small salary to get somebody that makes sense. But if they can just find one more front court player, one more reliable 30-minute per game front court player with Tatum, that's going to be enough to win the East. I'm telling you, Tatum and Brown alone are going to be that's just enough to win the East.
Are we going to see Tatum this year?
I don't know. Like, nobody will say anything to me or anybody else, but like, I think it's like, look, and this is just my opinion. Like, to me, they're kind of nodding their heads and whatever Jason wants. Like, you want to put an X on a calendar and say that's the date you're going to come back, go for it, man. We want you motivated to go and work. But I know that there are people in Tatum's circle that want him to sit out the year. I know there are people in Boston that would prefer him to sit out the year. It's just such, even though he's made a remarkable recovery, and his doctors saying all this stuff, but I've never seen anything like this. What is the upside? Like, what is the upside for dropping him into a playoff race with a body he's still not entirely comfortable in? Like, you can be, cleared to play basketball, but not ready to be playing 30 plus minutes at an intense level. Like, that is still, even in this age where every injury now is overcomable, like whether it's a foot injury, an ACL injury, this is the one injury that's still the trickiest, that still requires the most time to recover from and the most time to get all the way back from. It's much more accomplishable now than it has been in the past, but it's still really a year-long injury. So I don't see the upside. I think there are people in Tatum's team that don't see the upside. I think there are people in Boston that don't see the upside. But right now, they're marching the beat of Jayson Tatum's drum. Like, whatever gets him out of bed, gets him into the gym, gets him working towards that eventual recovery, they're gonna abide by.
Yeah, a couple of the other guys have ruled themselves out. Obviously, Halliburton, Lillard, similar time frame for those guys. So we'll see what happens with DeJounte Murray here too, who's kind of that next guy up in terms of coming back. New Year's Day seems to be the target there, and we'll see if that comes around with that New Orleans team. Yeah. So yeah, and that's what it is. 11, 12 months. Like 11 months for Tatum would be the end of this regular season. So do you bring him back for a playoff series? Probably not. But we'll see. And it's going to be one of the more interesting.
If they brought him back, if they brought him back for a playoff series, everybody, insane. That would be completely insane to drop a guy back into a playoff series.
Yeah, so I think that by that point he'll have been ruled out. Last question I got for you. I know you've done some reporting on the ownership transition going on here, and it is interesting to see Bill Chisholm courtside pumping up the crowd. And, they had this press conference where they, Wick and Bill are side by side, and you do see Wick underneath the basket on the other side. Like, there is like a two owner thing going on here right now that like maybe fans don't find to be the most interesting thing in the world, but I do wonder what this dynamic's going to be like for this team going into the future now, because Chisholm did take control of the team here. It seems to be like this massive, at least compared to what they had before, body of just an assortment of, financial people and all these new names and a few old names mixed in too. And of course, Wick bought back in at, I think 13%, I want to say, or something to that effect. What is this going to be like? Or are we just going to wait and see what this ends up looking like here? Because obviously the two big questions, or I guess there's three, are how much are they going to spend? Who's actually in charge of this thing here? Is it going to be like a bunch of different voices in charge of this thing alongside Bill? And of course, further down the line, are they going to keep playing at TD Garden?
Yeah, I would say first that I think that Wyc Grousbeck's ownership run was one of the greatest in Boston history. Like 2 decades plus of success, 2 championships, 2 different eras, exiting with this team set up for long-term success with 2 20-something stars in place. He is right up there with some of the great owners in Boston sports. He's around as long as he agrees with what Bill Chisholm is doing. Like it's Bill Chisholm's money. It's Bill Chisholm's team. I think some of these ownership deals, Boston, the Lakers, I think some of the outgoing owners have gotten a little cute with some of the language there. They've, basically written in, or at least, or tried to write in that they would maintain a level of power. But the reality is, just like with Mark Cuban in Dallas, when you're out, you're out. You can still be nominally in. Cuban still keeps his seat on the baseline by the Mavericks bench, but he has no basketball operations power. Similarly, Wyc Grousbeck is the alternate governor, but he doesn't have basketball operations power. Bill Chisholm, maybe he consults with them, maybe he doesn't. I don't know how close they are on that front, but it's Bill Chisholm, it's Brad Stevens, it's Mike Zarin, it's Dave Lewin. It's those guys that are running basketball ops now. It's going to be the same thing with Jeannie Buss in LA. Mark Walter, Jeannie Buss is still there. The Buss family is still part of it, but it's Mark Walter's show, man. He's running things out there. It's kind of kind of the way it is. So I think it's a dynamic that these two can coexist as long as they're in lockstep on decisions. But, you know, the moment that they disagree, you know, I don't know, you could, you know, Cuban's still around, but Cuban's sort of like the most well-paid fan there with the Mavericks. You could sort of see something like that happening to Wick. I don't blame Wick for kind of wanting to have his cake and eat it too. If I was him, I would have done the exact same thing. I would have tried to be the governor for the next 5 years while this team was in the middle of what he expected to be a multi-championship run. But you know, that's just not the way it goes. The guy that puts up the money is the guy that's making all the calls. And I would expect at some point, year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, there's going to be a difference of opinion that's going to lead to a divide potentially between the two owners.
Yeah, for sure. There'll be a lot of tough decisions too here on spending in the near term. It's still an expensive roster. You know, how they get back to contention status, all of that. And you know, it's been pretty stable for a long time now. So when that news dropped after the finals there, and relative unknown and Chisholm emerged as that buyer there, a lot of questions raised, and a lot of it's just going to be decided by what they do here, what their actions are from this point on. And
I don't think
the
you
break.
mentioned the building, the garden. I haven't heard a lot about new sites, new buildings, things like that. Like the most I've heard is a stronger likelihood of buying out the Bruins and taking over that building than anything else. I just
And
haven't
that's
heard.
what Chisholm gleaned at the presser. He was like, the Bruins and the Celtics belong together. People like the Garden. I thought those two things stood out there. Now, with the Bruins
I
sell, I
haven't.
don't know.
There are locations. I mean, the usual suspects, like the stuff in Everett. I think they would love to get, you know, the Celtics over there. I think there's a lot of challenges, not the least of which is public transportation to make that work.
Yeah.
I think, you know, there's a more of a likelihood, I think, that as this Chisholm regime goes forward, that the Celtics wind up buying, you know, Delaware North Company out of the Garden and taking control of that. Because I do think if you're paying $6 billion, whatever it is, for a team, you got to own the building too, man. Like you got to be able to collect revenue from the building as well. You can't just rely on the money coming from the team.
For sure. And TD Garden just turned 30 this month, I believe.
I was a ball boy there when it was the Fleet Center. My first year as a ball boy was when the first year of the Fleet Center was my first year over there. I remember it fondly, those first days.
I love it. Fans do love it. A lot of memories there. A couple championships now for this team in this building. So as long as they continue their run there, I think a lot of fans will be happy. And you know, we'll see what happens this year. You were in town. You got anything cooking? Any stories coming from your time here?
Yeah, I'll write about the Celtics at some point. They're so kind of bipolar now that I'm still not sure what I'm seeing. Like, you know, I was after that first quarter against Washington. I'm like, man, that's what's going on here.
So I'll tell you what impressed me. They've concocted a really interesting defense so far. And I think what they've done with that has gone a little bit under the radar of, like, I think they're first in fewest turnovers committed and first in total turnovers forced. And of course, like, I think it's like tied for fourth in per game, but they are wreaking havoc on that end. And I thought they would struggle on that end with some of the rim protection that they lost and some of the, you know, Drew Holidays of the world, obviously, but they're 12th in defense with a pretty ragtag group here. So I think one of the interesting stories this year is going to be Joe's had this super team, right, for a couple of years here where they've been expected to win. And, you know, he hasn't gotten a lot of credit for that. If this team is great, like, you know, top of the East great, this will be the year where he and his system and the stuff he does actually starts to get legitimate credit for, you know, part of the team's success here. Because, of course, this wasn't a team expected to do much more than finish 500. So we haven't seen that yet, but I think there's shades, at least, of his imprint leading to more success than expected on one side of the floor. The offense has been rough.
Yeah, they've played to their strengths, right? Like you mentioned, like kind of the causing chaos. Like their strengths are on the wing position. They've got guys that are athletic. Like Minott's one of them that can play multiple positions and be a defensive presence. It's just that when they go up against bigger, stronger teams and rebounding becomes a variable, they just don't have an answer. And I don't know what that answer is. Like on the roster, there's no, like, Namath Keita's been good. Like he's serviceable there, man. Like he's solid in that middle, but beyond him, you're just not getting, there's not much bulk up front. And you're seeing now, it's not everywhere, but teams are trending big. Like you saw, I mean, that the Houston game. Like that's the biggest team in the NBA in Houston. Like
You
they're
walked into the
monsters.
building that night, especially 5th game in 7 nights, and said,
Oh,
this team has 0 chance tonight.
Zero chance against a team that just beats the bejesus out of you every single possession. That's where the team's gonna be able to grind them down. So the Celtics, they're gonna have to be as creative as they've been this year defensively in terms of wreaking havoc to give themselves a chance on that end.
Is it the Thunder and everybody else? Is that still how you're looking at right now after their 8-0 start here? Or there's some teams you think could get in the title mix alongside them based on what we've seen so far?
Yeah, I was in Oklahoma City for about a week early in the season. I went to the opener and a couple other games. And what struck me about them, there wasn't they didn't celebrate anything. And that's not like hyperbole, because you saw the locker room celebration after, but they didn't really celebrate that either. They're just are so hyper focused on getting better and doing this again. And one thing Mark Dagnall told me out there was look, he was worried like anybody else. Would they overindulge this offseason? Would they come in in a ragtag bunch? He's like, first day, everybody was in shape. Everybody 1 through 10 was in shape and ready to go. And you've seen that. They picked up right where they left off. I mean, they've got AJ Mitchell is going to be the most improved player. The guy that was the 2nd round pick a year and a half ago on a 2-way contract. They have it a dirt cheap deal, and he's looking like a fringy all-star. He looks like the next Derek White. This combo guard that they've got. They just keep mining these talents that deepen the roster and make them better. So that's a long way of saying look, the West is tough. Denver is going to be a tough out for them, no question. The Lakers, Luka kicks the crap out of the Thunder every time he plays them, regardless of uniform. So that's not going to be an easy matchup if they wind up there. But right now, they are the class of the NBA by a wide margin.
Celtics don't get to see them till March, but they're fun. Anytime you can catch them, they're out of this world. It's another level that they're on right now. Celtics have the Magic a couple games this weekend. Then they're in Philly to cap off that road trip, playing them for a 3rd time to begin this season here. He is Chris Mannix. Check out his work over on Sports Illustrated. Find him over on Twitter at SI Chris Mannix. Appreciate you as always, Chris, and thanks for stopping by.
Anytime, Bobby.
All right. And for all of you remaining here, check out Omaha Steaks. We've been telling you about them. Use the code Patriots at checkout to get $35 off your order at omahasteaks.com. Terms apply. Head over there before the holidays start here and get yourself some good stuff. There's some site-wide discounts going on right now as well. But use the code Patriots to let them know we sent you at checkout and get $35 off your order at Omaha Steaks. And, of course, head over to Prizepicks, use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. We got post games coming up after these Magic games and the Sixers game on Tuesday that I'll be in Philadelphia for. But we'll continue to have shows throughout the weekend here. A lot of interviews coming up while the team is away. So stay tuned for those here on CLNS Media, Celtics All Access. Check out all of our coverage over on Bruins Rinkside. Patriots Press Pass as Pat's Bucks comes up this weekend. Toughest game of the season probably for New England to this point, aside from the Buffalo one. So good test for them down south. Shootout potential there in that one. And for the Celtics, schedule rolls on. Post-game shows after every game. And I will be on pretty much all of them. So catch you on one of those soon. Thanks again to Chris. And we will talk to you after the next Celtics game. Peace.